You're watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of GHS-TV's award-winning talk show Crosstalk. I'm your host, Sara Mayers. Each week in this time slot, we take a look at different issues, personalities, and events that affect you and our community. 2016 will be remembered as the year the United States dominated the Olympic Summer Games. Team USA's final medal count of 121 was its highest ever at an Olympics held abroad, topping the previous mark of 110 in Beijing 8 years ago. And with 46 gold medals, 37 silver medals, and 38 bronze medals, the U.S. topped the medal charts in every category for the 7th time in Olympic history. This week, we are bringing the Olympics to you. We'll talk with local Olympic athletes and coaches about their training process from the start to the finish line. My first guest today is a woman who won gold in 1996 in the 4x400 meter relay. Here is a look at her win.
4x400 meters relay. The Americans led off by Rochelle Stevens here, 29 now, 6th in the last Olympic finals, that was 4 years ago. A good relay runner. The American, Rochelle Stevens, going well. It's very even, the Jamaicans and the Nigerians, followed by the Czechs, the Cubans, Germans are there, the Czechs are not there, it's the Germans in fact. And right on the inside, we've got the Russians. So the third leg then. Charity Opara, and here we go for Ogun Koya to take over, and the American Graham hands over to Joe Miles, the former world champion, and Miles is away. Miles has got about 120 meters to go. Ogun Koya bearing down. The Jamaican Dion Hemmings working hard, and there's a gap opened up on the inside, and Ogun Koya's strong, and Joe Miles is hanging on. It's America from Nigeria at the moment. It's going to be close, and the United States get it. Nigeria second, they get the silver, and the Germans get the bronze. It was a very, very fine race. The Americans winning time 3:20.91. Well, Rochelle Stevens, Marcel Malone, Kim Graham, and Joe Miles.
Please join me in welcoming Rochelle Stevens to the show. Ms. Stevens, thank you for being here today.
Thank you. It is an honor to be your guest and to look at that video. I was like, wow, this is exciting.
Well, Ms. Stevens, you won that gold medal in front of a home crowd in Atlanta. What was it like standing on the podium with your teammates receiving that medal?
You know, it was a dream come true. Ever since I was 12 years old, I dreamed of going to the Olympics and watch Wilma Rudolph win her 3 gold medals in the 1960 Olympics. And it's a big deal, especially when you can win a gold medal on your home turf. And Atlanta is like 5 hours from Memphis, and knowing that I had my family and friends and everyone a little closer to cheer and to actually be there, it was just phenomenal. I know tears just dropped down my eyes, and I was like going, wow, it finally happened. It finally has come true. My dream has finally come true.
Well, that was not your first medal. 4 years earlier, you won a silver medal, and in '98, you won the NCAA Outdoor Champion. Can you talk about your training and preparation?
In 1988, I actually went to the Olympic trials, and I missed the Olympic team by a blink of an eye. So 1 minute I was celebrating, and an hour later they were announcing that I was not a part of the team because of a photo finish. And I basically was like, giving up on my dream, because my second dream was to be a television anchor or to work into television production. And so I didn't think I would, be able to achieve that dream, but I upped my game and started doing 2,000 sit-ups a day, an hour and a half, or weight training, just training really, really hard to make it to that next level. In '92, I won the U.S. Olympic trials. So I went from missing a team by a photo finish to 4 years later, now I'm #1 in the world, and finished second in Barcelona, and just so happened brought the little hardware with me just in case. Got the second, the silver medal in Barcelona, Spain, and 6th place in the Open 400. And then 4 years later, because no one remembers second place, brought back home to go from Atlanta. So it's an honor to be able to represent the U.S. and especially our community.
Mm-hmm. Well, tell us how you got started in track and field.
How did I get started? Like I said, I was racing other kids from street pole to street pole, and seeing who's the fastest. And then after you dominate your street, you start getting a little arrogant with it and going over to other streets and communities and racing kids. And my mom heard that I was out street racing, so she enrolled me in an AAU Junior Olympics program. And because of that program, I was able to earn 20 full scholarships in track and field to attend college. And I chose Morgan State University in Baltimore, Maryland.
Well, let's talk about the Rio Olympics for a moment. Drug use was a big problem this year, including the partial ban of the Russian team. There was a little feud between U.S. swimmer Lily King and Russia's Yulia Efimova, who was banned for doping twice. Was this kind of thing prevalent when you were training for the Olympics as well?
Well, they're just now beginning to publicize it just a little bit. I mean, they're not doing half the amount of drugs that was done when I was competing in the 80s and the 90s, because at that time, most of those countries were communist countries, and the athletes didn't have a choice. So they started putting their athletes on steroids and growth hormones at the age of 8, 9, and 10 years old. So, I would step on the track, and I thought Arnold Schwarzenegger was in the lane beside me, but really it was a woman. So they wasn't really into busting the athletes, because if your federation is the one responsible for you being on those drugs, it's not a whole lot that you can do. So it just took a lot of hard work, prayer, determination, and my mother building up my confidence to be able to race against the athletes that were cheating. But I can truly say I never touched any form of drugs, barely want to take vitamins. I just don't know what's in anything, and I was always a clean athlete, so I can proudly say I represented everyone as a clean athlete.
Well, what do you think about the athletes who were banned for a period of time but will be returning to competition soon?
Well, 4 years is a long time to be off from any sport. 8 years is even longer. If they return, most of the time they don't return back at the same speed or the strength that they once had. That break is a very long break, and a lot of them, they don't never really make that return, because half of them are up in age. So if you're not training at the high level every single day, you won't be a threat 4 or 8 years later.
Well, you've been very busy since receiving that gold medal, including writing your autobiography, Travel the World by Foot. What made you decide that now was the time to write it?
20 years ago, I was #1 in the world, and I was like, hey, it's time for me to share my story, share the experiences that I have had as an athlete, entrepreneur, and a philanthropist, and just talk about my challenges and the perception of being the best in the world, and being able to strive past those challenges and to achieve success. It didn't come the way I thought, because everyone's like, wow, if you make the Olympic team, companies are going to knock on your door. If you make the Olympic team, or if you win a medal, you'll make a Wheatie box. I mean, I was begging to be on a cornflake box. It didn't even have to just be Wheatie, but those things didn't quite happen, not for me. And so I had to readjust my schedule, my educational background, my experience, and tailor it towards, being able to just adjust with society. And there may be other athletes or inspiring people or entrepreneurs like myself that need to know, hey, you still got to work hard, you still have to set your goals, you still have to go out there and make it happen. And so I normally, say to people, some people talk about what happened, some people look at what happened, and then you got some people that make it happen. And I was one of those people that's continuing to make it happen, and I'm just proud to be able to promote my autobiography. You don't mind me grabbing it too. My autobiography, Travel the World by Foot, and it consists of inspirational stories as well of my travels around the world. I got the opportunity to see almost travel or compete on every continent in the world, and talked about the different experiences. And then I give some historical notes, and you'll find that it's kind of comical, especially when I had the opportunity to meet the Prince of Monte Carlo, and he thought I was a princess from Africa.
Well, what do you hope your readers take away from your book?
What I hope they take away is that when you dream big. Don't give up on your dreams. Your dreams don't work unless you work your dreams. And I just hope to inspire someone else to just, achieve and be the best that they can be, and know that preparation is never wasted time. It may look like you're not doing a whole lot, but whenever you sit down and take out the time to properly prepare, put in your mind what it is that you want to do or achieve, then you can achieve all those things.
Well, Ms. Stevens, we have time for one last question. After everything you've achieved, what are you the most proud of?
I think I'm proud of everything, especially when you get a little bit older. I sit back and look at the accomplishments of how I'm able to help young people through my foundation. Over 10,000 children have come through that program, my track meet, my foundation, my street name. So I'm just proud of all the accomplishments. I'm even proud to be your guest today.
Well, Ms. Stevens, thank you for being here today, for talking with me.
Thank you for having me.
We have to take a short break. When we get back, we will talk with an Olympic swimmer who has a connection to the greatest Olympic athlete of all time. Stick around.
I'm a teacher. Let me tell you what I make. I make learning a privilege, not a chore, and frustration a tool, not an obstacle. I make working hard seem easy and giving up impossible. I make an old subject feel like a fresh thought and unconventional methods common. I'm a teacher. I make more.
You're watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Welcome back to this week's edition of Crosstalk. I'm your host, Sara Mayers. We are discussing the complete Olympic process with local athletes and coaches. Here with us now is swimmer Gil Stovall. He competed in the 2008 Olympics in Beijing. Let's take a quick look at his race. Mr. Stovall, welcome to the Crosstalk set.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Well, tell us what it was like competing in the 2008 Olympics.
It was an honor. It was something that different from Rochelle, I actually didn't have dreams of making an Olympic team through my entire sports career. But through working hard and continuing to try to strive for other goals that I had, I put myself in a position to eventually make that 2008 Olympic team and be a part of one of the most special moments in Olympic history.
Well, I have to ask about Michael Phelps. Did you have a lot of interaction with him during the 2008 Olympics?
I did. I had quite a bit of interactions with him through training camps. He's also a butterflyer, which was my specialty, and got to train with him quite a bit. And I was actually one of his suite mates in the Olympic Village while he was going through the process of one of the greatest performances in Olympic history.
Well, unfortunately, the day of your race, you came down with a bad stomach virus, which ended up not swimming your best. What was going through your head the day of the race?
You know, when I was warming up, I knew that I was probably not going to have my best race, but you know, I had been on many other international teams at that point, and I'd had lots of success, lots of failures, and kind of knew what to expect. And you know, hadn't ever competed at that stage yet, but it was very comparable. And so, you know, I just kind of got in my head and just, you know, made sure that I had the best race that I could that day. And you know, granted how I was feeling, I was very proud of my swim, though. I ended up missing the final heat by 1/100th of a second, which was pretty gut-wrenching. But you know, I was very proud of my performance and the opportunity to be a part of all of that.
Well, after that race, you weren't really sure if you wanted to swim again. How did you overcome that?
I battled with it quite a bit. You know, I had been swimming for about 18 years at that point, and you know, I didn't know if I was ready to give up my swimming career quite yet. I was still finishing school at the University of Georgia, and I trained for another year after the 2008 Olympics. But you know, as I said, making an Olympic team wasn't always the dream for me. You know, it became a reality, and it became a dream through trying to be a very great college athlete in swimming. But you know, I think once the dust settled and I kind of got over the heartbreak of missing finals at the Olympics, I realized that, you know, I had accomplished everything that I wanted to in my swimming career and just didn't really have the fire to try and accomplish more. And so I knew it was time to hang it up.
Well, you mentioned that you didn't have the same dreams as Rochelle of being an Olympic athlete. So how did you start your road to Beijing?
I really wanted to be a great college swimmer. That was my goal when I was younger. I always loved swimming. I was pretty good at it from a young age, and college swimming was something that always appealed to me. And being a part of a team that you train with over long periods of time and getting to know the athletes, getting to know the people is always a special process for me. And so I really wanted to go and be a great contributor at a very high level college team. And these days in swimming, if you accomplish that goal, you will most likely be putting yourself in a situation where you can make an Olympic team. So, you know, that's kind of what led me there and provided me the opportunity, and everything just kind of happened at the right time, and I ended up making the Olympic team in 2008.
Well, walk us through the training and preparations you went through.
So getting ready for Beijing, it's a full-time job. I was training roughly 7 hours a day, 2.5 to 3 hours of swimming in the morning. We'd have about a 30-minute break and then go into the weight room for about 45 minutes to an hour, and then we'd go eat lunch, maybe take a nap, and then come back for another 2 to 2.5 hours of swimming in the afternoon. And that was every day, Monday through Saturday, and lots of preparation, lots of hard work.
Well, after the Olympics, you took time off to spend time with your family. When did you start swimming again?
So I took about 4 or 5 months just completely away from the pool after Beijing, and it was wonderful. I came back early from the Olympics. I didn't get to go to closing ceremonies because my best childhood friend was getting married, and my sister actually got married a week after him, and so I got to go to lots of weddings immediately after the Olympics, and took that semester off from school to, you know, just hang out, enjoy life for a minute, and enjoy my family and my friends. And I got back in the water in December of 2008 and trained through the end of 2009, beginning of 2010, and that was when I knew it was time to hang it up.
Well, Mr. Stovall, thank you for being here today and for talking with me.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
It's time to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk with the man who is training the next Olympic athletes. Stay with us.
Welcome to Germantown High School, an international baccalaureate creative and performing arts optional school, a destination school for students who are going places.
Our students are of the highest caliber when it comes to their academics and knowledge.
The IB program is a very rigorous program.
You were challenged in a way that you thought you couldn't be challenged you succeeded, something that other kids may not have thought they could do.
They're accepted to colleges that are just, dream colleges for so many people.
Germantown High School offers a CAPA program, the Creative and Performing Arts program.
When I first came here, I saw the television studio and I was just amazed at what all I saw.
Kids do everything, that they're taught every detail that has to do with theater arts and creative arts.
I love a lot of things about Germantown High School, but primarily what I love is the athletics. There's something exciting around every single corner.
We probably are one of the most diverse high schools in the state of Tennessee, maybe the United States.
I would never doubt about sending your child to Germantown High School.
This high school is something not like any other high school that we have.
There's definitely fun in the work. We find fun in everything we do.
You're watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Welcome back to Crosstalk. I'm your host, Sara Mayers. This week we are discussing the Olympics. From training to competition, local Olympians are sharing their experiences of competing on the world's biggest stage. However, no athlete can make it without their coach. With us now is Ben Davis, the head swim coach at the University of Memphis. Mr. Davis, thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Well, tell us how you got into coaching.
I started swimming at age 6 and started coaching when I was about 15. I started working with the 8 and unders, the little kids, and went off to college to swim, but decided I wanted to coach swimming instead, and transferred to the University of Alabama to work under 5-time Olympic coach Don Gambrell so I could learn from the best, and been doing it ever since.
Well, you're an ASCA Level 5 swim coach. Can you tell us what that means?
The ASCA Level 5 is having swimmers on national teams as well as educational requirements that go into that as well. And once you've achieved that level, you actually get to keep that level, which is good. But it's mainly the level of athletes you're producing gets you to that level.
Well, you've coached many national and international teams, including Turkey's 1996 Olympic swim team. What do you enjoy about coaching?
Watching the athletes, it's the process. We know we hear that a lot in sports now, but it is truly the process of watching athletes set a goal, do the work to achieve that goal, and then watch the joy on their face when they get there. You know, in swimming, it's the clock tells everything. So when they touch that wall and see that time or make an international team, that's what keeps you going in coaching.
What was it like working with Turkey's Olympic swim team?
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun walking in the opening ceremonies. Because the United States came in last, they were the last country in, they were the host team. So the Turkish team was one of the last to come in before the United States. Walking in the opening ceremonies, being on the pool deck every day with all the great coaches and swimmers from around the world, it was just a blast. It was a lot of fun.
Well, when you're getting a swimmer ready for the Olympic trials, what preparation and training do you put them through?
Well, it's combination of making sure they're aerobically fit, making sure their speed is where it should be, and depending on the athlete and depending on the event. In swimming, we have events that last 21 seconds and we have events that last 15 minutes. So depending on the athlete, you have to tailor the training for each individual athlete as you're going into the Olympic trials to give them the best shot of making the team.
What former Olympians have you coached?
Coached a guy by the name of Brent Lang in 1988. He won the gold medal on the 400 free relay. And the Turkish swimmer was John Erganican, who swam with us on my team in Portland his whole life. And he was ranked in the top 15 in the world for 5 years. And so we took him to the Olympics in '96.
Tell us what it's like working with such talented swimmers.
It's a lot of fun, but it's also a challenge because you have to make sure they're getting what they need. And one of the fun things is writing workouts for them that does challenge them. Sometimes beats them, sometimes they beat you. But it's the whole process of making sure they're getting everything they need is where it all comes out.
Well, what techniques do you use when coaching your team?
We do a lot of technical work on their strokes. To me, that's the #1 thing. With good technique, there's no ceiling on how fast a swimmer can be. With bad technique, there's always a ceiling. So having the technical things, In swimming, we have 4 strokes plus the kick. The underwater kick has become very prevalent in swimming now, and I feel like that's one of our strong suits that we do really well. All of our swimmers do, from the top level on down. So those are some of the things that we do.
Well, walk us through one of your typical practices.
We come in, swimmers get there about 3:45. We do what's called dynamic stretching. Most people are used to the old static stretching of just standing there and moving your arms about, but we do a lot of different exercises to get the swimmers ready. We'll get in, warm up a little bit, and then depends on the day of the week. For instance, we'll take today. We're going to split the group up into their prime strokes, and they'll get to work on those things individually today. They'll come back tomorrow morning at 5 o'clock and do yoga for 45 minutes, and then we'll go swim again. So we're practicing every afternoon, 3 mornings a week, of which they're doing weights on Monday and Fridays, yoga on Wednesdays, and then come back on Saturday morning as well.
Well, earlier in the show, we talked about athletes doping to enhance their performance. Do you talk to your athletes about this?
We do. And the biggest issue with the doping is that industry is not regulated. So if you go into, say, a health food store and buy protein powder, it's not regulated. So you have no idea what's in there. And that's the biggest, that's where athletes get into trouble, is they might have something in a substance they didn't know they were taking. So they have to be really careful on what they're buying and why they're buying it. And that's a big problem. And there's been 2 swimmers that have been banned, but have sued the company they bought the I think it was protein powder, and proved that there was stuff in there that wasn't supposed to be in there. And they got their eligibility back.
Well, as a coach, for one last question, tell us what the most important thing you can teach a swimmer is.
Dedication, discipline, time management. I mean, you guys obviously with school and running the studio, you have to worry about that. Well, as a swimmer, you've got to be careful about the social media at night when you should be doing your homework so you can get back to the pool at 5 o'clock in the morning. And that's the biggest thing, time management and discipline.
Well, thank you so much for being here today and talking with us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Many athletes with Olympic aspirations train their whole lives in hopes of winning that coveted gold medal. But it's not just what they do on the track or in the pool that makes them American heroes. It's how they channel their success to help and teach others later on in life. I hope today's show has shown you how Memphis Olympic athletes are giving back. Thank you to all of my guests for coming on the show today. Remember, Crosstalk can be seen each week at 9:30 a.m. and 7 p.m. on Mondays and Thursdays, and 12:30 p.m. and 7 p.m. on Sundays. For more information on our programming, please check us out on the web at GHS-TV.org, where we are streaming live 24 hours a day. You can also check us out on Facebook and Twitter. I'm Sara Mayers, and from all of us here at GHS-TV, thank you for watching Crosstalk, and hope to see you again.